Let's talk about attraction. Not the surface level stuff, not the does he like my outfit kind of attraction. I mean, the kind that makes a man lean in, really listen, and feel something in his chest when he's around you. Because here's the truth. Most women are taught to impress men by being agreeable, polite, and nice. When we think about what makes someone attractive, the first things that come to mind are often physical, a great smile, a confident walk, maybe the way they dress or the tone of their voice. But while those things may spark initial interest, they're not what create lasting intrigue. What actually turns someone on and keeps them coming back for more is curiosity. Curiosity is the new sexy because it invites people into a deeper experience. It's not about being nosy or interrogative, but about showing that you're genuinely interested in understanding the person in front of you. In a world where most interactions are superficial, where people swipe right and forget your name 5 minutes later, being curious is rare, and that rarity is powerful. It makes a man feel seen, which is something he might not even realize is craving. When you ask a question that no one else asks, something meaningful, unexpected, or even playful, it interrupts the pattern. It snaps him out of the usual small talk and invites him to open up, to be real. That's when real attraction happens. Curiosity also signals confidence. When you're comfortable enough to ask bold or deep questions, it shows that you're not afraid of emotional intimacy. You're not waiting to be chosen, you're choosing too. You're not trying to impress with a perfectly polished version of yourself. Instead, you're willing to engage, explore, and peel back the layers of a person's identity. That kind of emotional engagement is magnetic. It creates a space where the other person can relax and reveal more of themselves, and in doing so, they start to associate you with that feeling of openness and self-expression. Men are especially responsive to this kind of energy because they rarely get it. Many of them are used to conversations that revolve around surface-level compliments or scripted dating questions. So when a woman comes along and says something like, "What's something you never get to talk about but wish someone would ask?" it lands differently. It bypasses the ego and reaches something deeper. It tells him that you're not just interested in how he looks or what he does, but in who he really is. That alone is disarming and incredibly sexy. Curiosity also creates unpredictability. A sexy question isn't just about content, it's about timing, tone, and context. When a question comes out of nowhere, delivered with a smile and a spark in your eye, it creates a sense of mystery. He doesn't know where the conversation is going next, and that uncertainty is exciting. It's the kind of moment that makes someone sit forward, raise an eyebrow, and think, who is this woman? You stop being predictable and you start being unforgettable. Attraction isn't always about what's said, it's about what's felt. Emotional tension is one of the most powerful forces in human connection, and when it comes to turning a man on, it's far more effective than any perfectly delivered line or calculated move. Emotional tension is the space between what's spoken and what's not, the subtle energy exchange that keeps both people leaning in. It's created when there's curiosity, contrast, and the possibility of something more just beneath the surface. Think about the last time you had a conversation where you felt totally locked in. Your body was present, your mind was alert, and you could feel the stakes rising, even if nothing dramatic was happening. That's emotional tension. It's when someone makes you feel slightly challenged, when there's a pause before an answer, when someone holds eye contact just a second longer than usual. It's not conflict, it's chemistry, and it's created through emotional presence and contrast. You're not just agreeing with everything he says or laughing at every joke. You're giving him moments of warmth, moments of playfulness, and moments where you pull back just enough to keep him engaged. Emotional tension builds attraction because it mimics the rhythm of a great story. There's anticipation, uncertainty, and the feeling that something meaningful is just around the corner. When a woman can create that with her energy, her words, and her timing, she becomes magnetic. Men are wired to respond to challenge and reward. Emotional tension delivers both. It teases without giving everything away, it invites connection without making it too easy, and it allows space for both people to show up with their full personalities. When you ask a question that's slightly unexpected, or when you challenge a man's perspective with kindness and confidence, you're generating that tension. It's not about being combative or difficult. It's about showing that you have depth, standards, and a unique way of seeing the world. That subtle push-pull dynamic stirs something inside him. It makes him feel like he has to earn your attention, not just receive it by default. And when a man feels like he's earning something, he values it more. Even silence can create emotional tension when it's used well. A slight pause after he says something vulnerable, a smirk when he makes a bold claim, a moment where you let your expression say more than your words ever could. Those are the moments that leave an impact. They create emotional voltage. And that voltage is what turns casual interest into serious intrigue. It keeps the interaction alive and charged. Like there's always something unsaid, something waiting to be discovered. Men might not always articulate this feeling, but they know it when they feel it. They lean in, stay engaged, and start to see you as someone different from the rest. Most people go into conversations with one goal: to impress. They want to be liked, to be approved of, to make a good impression. But in doing so, they often lose the very thing that makes them attractive: genuine connection. Instead of trying to impress, the most magnetic approach is to ask. Ask with curiosity, with confidence, and with the intention of actually getting to know the person in front of you. When you shift from trying to perform to simply being present and inquisitive, everything changes. Impressing someone usually comes from a place of insecurity. It says, "I hope I'm enough for you," or "let me prove my worth." But asking comes from a place of power. It communicates, "I know who I am, and I want to know if you are someone I want to invest in." That subtle difference changes the entire dynamic. Men pick up on it. When you're asking rather than selling yourself, you appear grounded, emotionally intelligent, and self-assured. You're not seeking validation, you're seeking alignment. And when you ask instead of impress, you create room for meaningful conversation. You open the door to stories, opinions, and unexpected details. You make space for a man to express himself, not just to respond to your performance. And the truth is, people love to talk about themselves when they feel genuinely invited to. They feel seen, appreciated, and interesting. That's incredibly attractive. Asking shows that you're engaged and selective, not just waiting to be chosen, but actively choosing. Men are constantly bombarded by shallow validation, compliments on their looks, comments about their job, or basic, "you seem nice" energy. But when you ask something that's layered, something like, "What do you think people misunderstand about you?" Or "What's something that lights you up, but you don't get to talk about often?" you cut through the noise. You signal that you're not here to play games or keep things surface level. You're here to connect, to challenge, and to explore. That kind of presence is rare, and that rarity is what turns heads. There's also a natural balance of power that happens when you ask. You take the lead in a way that doesn't feel dominant, but rather deeply confident. You're steering the conversation into meaningful territory, and in doing so, you naturally create more intimacy. Most people are waiting for permission to go deeper. They don't want to be the one to make it serious or real. But when you ask instead of perform, you give them that permission. You give them a reason to drop their guard and meet you on that level. This approach also gives you better insight into the man you're talking to. When you're focused on impressing, you might not even notice whether you're actually compatible. You're too busy performing to observe. But when you're asking, you're assessing. You're paying attention to how he responds, what lights him up, what matters to him. That insight is powerful because it helps you stay in your own worth instead of chasing his approval. Confidence is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have, and one of the most subtle ways it's communicated is through the questions you ask. Bold questions, thoughtful questions, even playful ones. All of them send a message. You're not afraid to take up space, to be curious, to steer the conversation. When you ask with intention and clarity, you show that you're grounded in yourself. You're not waiting for permission to engage. You're already in the moment, fully present and fully owning your voice. Most people play it safe in conversation, especially when they're interested in someone. They stick to what's comfortable. What do you do, or where are you from? But those questions don't reveal anything about you or about your level of emotional presence. Confident people don't shy away from real conversations. They're willing to go beyond the surface because they trust that what they bring to the table is valuable. When you ask a man something that catches him off guard in the best way, something unexpected, thought-provoking, or even slightly cheeky, you create a spark. That spark tells him you're not afraid of depth, and you're not afraid of desire. Confidence through questions also means you're not overly invested in being liked. You're more interested in connection than performance. That kind of attitude is magnetic. It says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to explore who you are too. Men pick up on this energy immediately. It shifts the power dynamic from one of approval seeking to one of mutual discovery. You're not trying to pass a test. You're asking the questions that reveal whether he meets your standards emotionally and intellectually. This doesn't mean you need to be aggressive or controlling in your approach. It's not about dominance, it's about direction. When you confidently guide a conversation with questions that matter, you're creating a rhythm that invites real connection. You're showing that you're not just a passive participant in your dating life, you're an active chooser. That's a quality men deeply respect, even if they don't always know how to articulate it. Another way bold questions signal confidence is that they reflect emotional availability. You're not just throwing out words, you're willing to engage in a meaningful way. That takes courage. It takes self-awareness, and it shows that you're not intimidated by vulnerability, either your own or his. When you ask a man something like, what scares you more? Falling in love or not falling in love at all? You're not just flirting. You're inviting him into a space where emotional truth can live. That's not just attractive, it's unforgettable. When you carry this kind of energy into your interactions, the questions you ask become more than just conversation starters. They become a reflection of your self-worth. They say, I'm not afraid to go there. They invite play, honesty, even tension. All the ingredients of true chemistry. And more importantly, they let the man know that you're not just someone interesting to talk to. You're someone he wants to impress, connect with, and keep exploring. Connection is the foundation of real attraction. While chemistry can create a spark, it's connection that sustains interest and turns that spark into something meaningful. When a woman knows how to build connection, she becomes memorable. Not just physically, but emotionally. That's what creates the kind of impact that lingers in someone's mind long after the conversation is over. The problem is, most people confuse connection with compatibility or common interests. But connection goes much deeper. It's about resonance, not resemblance. It's about creating space for someone to feel understood and seen in a way that's rare and real. Men, just like women, crave emotional connection. They may not always lead with it, and they may not talk about it openly, but they feel it. And when they do, it changes everything. It makes the difference between someone they had a nice time with and someone they can't stop thinking about. Sexy questions aren't just about being bold or provocative. They're about creating intimacy. They show that you're not afraid to peel back the layers and that you're capable of holding space for a deeper experience. That's what sets you apart from the crowd. When you create connection, you move beyond surface level attraction. You move into emotional intimacy, which is what most people are truly looking for, even if they don't know how to ask for it. Asking a man something personal, like what makes him feel most alive, or what he's afraid to want, isn't just about gathering information. It's about opening a door. It tells him that it's safe to bring more of himself into the moment. And when he does, you're no longer just flirting. You're building something with real weight. Connection is also built through presence. It's not just about what you ask, it's about how you listen. When you're fully there, engaged, and responding not just to the words, but to the emotion behind them, it creates a current between you. He feels it. He notices the difference between someone who's waiting to speak and someone who's actually listening. That attentiveness is a rare kind of intimacy, and it instantly deepens the bond. It says, without words, I'm not just here to entertain you, I'm here to know you. You don't have to have all the answers, and you don't need to share every detail of your own story right away. But when you show that you care about his world, his thoughts, his desires, his fears, you give him a reason to care about yours. That mutual investment is where true attraction begins. It moves things out of the realm of casual and into something more meaningful. It gives the interaction texture, memory, emotion, and that emotional thread, once established, becomes the thing he returns to in his mind. The real secret isn't about being the most impressive person in the room, it's about being the most connected. When a man feels that emotional link with you, he stops comparing you to anyone else. He's not thinking about how attractive you are in some general sense, he's thinking about you in particular. And that's where real desire starts to grow. One of the most powerful things you can do in any romantic interaction is leave a man thinking instead of just reacting. When most people approach attraction, they focus on immediate responses. They want laughter, compliments, flirtation, something that proves the other person is interested in the moment. But real influence doesn't happen in the moment alone, it happens after. It's in the thoughts he has later. When he's lying in bed or driving home, replaying parts of the conversation and wondering what it was about you that felt different. That's the power of leaving someone thinking. Sexy questions have the ability to plant seeds. They linger, they provoke, they pull someone out of autopilot and force them to reflect. That reflection creates depth, and depth creates desire. When you ask a question that makes a man pause, one that catches him slightly off guard in a good way, you're creating emotional residue, something that stays with him. Most conversations fade quickly because they never really ask anything worth remembering. But when you ask something that makes him go inward for a second, something that makes him smile and then think twice, you stand out. He doesn't just remember the moment, he remembers how it made him feel. The key is not to overwhelm or interrogate, but to gently disrupt his usual rhythm. Ask something that's layered. Something that suggests you're not just here for a surface-level exchange. For example, instead of asking what he does for fun, ask what he does that makes him lose track of time. Instead of asking where he's from, ask what place in the world has ever felt like home. These kinds of questions don't just get different answers, they create a different experience, one that feels intimate, surprising, and engaging. When you leave a man thinking, you also leave him wanting more. It's the difference between closure and curiosity. If he feels like he's discovered everything about you in one sitting, the mystery fades. But if you've given him a glimpse of depth, a taste of something meaningful, he'll want to come back for more. This isn't about manipulation, it's about being intentional with your presence, about understanding that desire isn't just a physical response, it's a mental and emotional one too. Men are naturally drawn to what challenges them just enough. When you say something that lingers in his mind, that he finds himself returning to even without meaning to, you're becoming more than a fun memory. You're becoming a mental loop. That loop makes him curious. It makes him ask himself questions about you. And when he starts asking those questions, he's no longer passive in the interaction, he's invested. He's wondering, analyzing, engaging on a level that creates emotional pull. Leaving someone thinking doesn't mean being elusive or playing games. It means you showed up in a way that was real, thoughtful, and surprising. It means you asked something that mattered, said something that revealed character, or challenged him to look at himself differently. That kind of moment doesn't just attract, it lasts.